So I'm the manager of the Sleep Center and Respiratory and Bronch Lab at St. Louis Medical Center. My friend here, Blake, he's really the expert on the actual sleep stuff. But he's been on for a little while, so I got to put together this presentation, and I wasn't going to make him present my presentation. So he will answer the difficult technical questions, and I'll just be the head of the PowerPoint. So I started out my career, I worked ICU for a while, adult ICU, and I moved to pediatrics and neuro-intensive care. I've never had any interest in sleep. It's super boring. As you can see from the sleep presentation. My husband and my son actually kind of motivated me to get involved in it a little more. They both had sleep disorders. So although the actual doing the sleep studies are quite boring, it's really interesting to see the difference it can make when you correct sleep issues in your health and in your daily lives. So. So obviously we know it plays a critical role in the way we function each day. The cost of poor sleep has major consequences. They say there's something called a sleep debt. So when you're in college and you don't sleep and you stay up all night, you go to parties, you're creating small amounts of sleep debt. And as that sleep debt grows, there's a point in time where you can't ever make that back up again. So you're saying, well, I'll sleep in this weekend and I won't be tired anymore. Continued amount of sleep deprivation eventually adds up, and you'll never regain that back, regain the function that you lose. So it's kind of interesting to know that, something we should probably share with our kids in the younger generations. So I always like to talk about some of these giant disasters. So Exxon Valdez, is anybody familiar with that? So I think it was 1989, the Alaska pipeline, they shipped from Alaska to California. They've used this route almost daily to transport their crude oil. And the ship and this crew traversed that path countless times. But on this day, they hit a reef that was well known, and it spilled $11 million of crude oil into the Alaska Prince William Sound. No one actually died in this disaster, but the effect on the ecosystem and things like that were very devastating. It was like $7 billion to clean up. There's another one, 3 Mile Island. So this was the nuclear reactor. This was the third shift, and I would blame everything on that shift. There was an issue with the control panel. The panel said a valve was closed, the valve was really open. And there was troubleshooting that they were supposed to do. And that didn't get done, and it ended up causing the reactor to go nuclear. And I think it was, I'm trying to remember how many, like $7 or $8 billion to clean up that disaster. The Challenger explosion, a lot of us remember this one. 7 people died on the launch, on the space launch. One of them was Scorpion Tree. And then Air Flight 44-7 was, I think it was 2009. We were going from Rio de Janeiro to Paris when the plane just crashed, killing all 223 people on the plane. And there was no real discernible equipment failures or anything like that on the airplane. There was a gas leak in India. This was a pesticide plant. They manufactured pesticide, and again, it was third shift, night shift, where there was a leak. They missed the leak. A lot of the troubleshooting things again. Instead, it caused a methane explosion. I think it killed 3,800 people instantly, and then by the end of it, the death toll was 15,000. And an additional 600,000 people were either disabled or injured in that disaster. And the last one was Chernobyl. That one they were testing a new generator, I believe. The new generator failed. There was a power surge and an explosion. One person died instantly, another person died in the hospital. And then I think in the end, it was hard to calculate because of the cancer deaths. It's hard to annotate how many people actually died, but I think the total was like 138 people died from that they're attributing to the radiation for that. But it was one of the biggest nuclear disasters that we've ever had. So what did all these disasters have in common? And they were, every one of them, sleep deprivation was a contributing factor. In the Exxon Valdez, the captain had a little bit of drinking problem, so he had turned the helm over to his third mate, who had only had 6 hours of sleep in the last 2 days. And the gentleman fell asleep at the wheel and hit the reef, which is what caused that whole disaster. Was an alcoholic skipper and a guy who didn't sleep. 3 Mile Island was a night shift. The sleep deprivation prevented them from being able to go through these steps that they had extensive training that were supposed to be second nature. And because of the sleep deprivation, they weren't able to see, I guess, what were very evident signs of what the problem was. So by the time they figured out what the problem was, it was too late and the nuclear reactor had already melted. So had they, the studies are showing, had they had enough sleep, they probably would have been able to figure out what the problem was before it happened. The Challenger was fascinating. The control folks who pretty much ran the whole deal, they had been up for 2 days straight. They had 3 hours of sleep. I think it launched around 9 or 10 a.m. in the morning. They had been up since 1 p.m. the night before with only 2 or 3 hours of sleep. All of the ones who were controlling everything with that shuttle launch had not slept in days. So they kept them up to try to get everything ready for the launch, but that ended up the miscalculation ended up being what killed all 7 of those people. This one's interesting. So the captain, they were in Rio de Janeiro and they had a 3-day layover, so they all should have been rested. There was no back-to-back flights, 3-day layover. They had drank too much the night before, the captain and the co-pilots, so they were all sleeping with the plane on autopilot, and some ice, I guess, accumulated. And had they been in the, one person been in the cockpit, they would have been able to correct the situation before it, I guess the autopilot failed, before they could get out of bed and get back to the helmet. It was already, I guess, too late to correct the issue, so everybody on board died in that disaster. This one was also a third shift situation. In India, they don't have laws that regulate how long you can work, so a lot of these people will be up for 16, 17, 18 hours straight, looking at these control panels, and they believe that the gentleman who was in charge of, who should have, I guess, noticed the leak, the methane leak, had been up for almost 2 days working, and that's when the mistake happened. And in Chernobyl as well, it was a third shift. They have the checklist that they had to go through, and they just didn't have enough sleep to really, I mean, I guess there was a lot of failures with this, but sleep was they said a major contributing factor to this disaster. Possibly training as well, but all the training in the world, if you're sleep too tired to function, you're not going to be able to go through those normal steps that you would normally do. So what can we do to get better sleep? Eliminating distractions from your bedroom. You want to create a good room to sleep in. And I know, I think Alan was talking about earlier, like having a TV in your bedroom. Nothing better than laying in bed and watching TV. But sleeping with the TV on, having bright lights, having a lot of noise and things like that make it more difficult to fall asleep. So they say to create an environment in your bedroom that's the most comfortable and the most conducive to sleep. A lot of people say, a lot of nurses say no TV in your room at all. I know we have small kids, so that is our only free time to not watch Teletubbies, so we are guilty of that, but make sure you turn it off when it's bedtime. Avoiding cell phone and electronics. So the blue light that's created by television, cell phones, computers, all those screens, they work against your circadian rhythm, and they make your brain think that it's daytime. So if you're sitting there with your cell phone or your laptop in bed, for your sleep, it's telling your brain that it's daytime and it needs to wake up. So it doesn't release that melatonin. It doesn't set you up to be able to go to sleep. So a lot of us can't sleep. It's the first thing we do. We pick up our phones, scroll through Facebook, read emails. It makes problems worse. So a lot of phones and TVs nowadays will have a blue light filter, and you can put that blue light filter on, and it will actually block those lights that cause that problem. It makes the screen look a little funny, but it's really a good idea. A lot of people have success with that if they just can't put the phone down. They say stop watching TV like an hour before bed. You want a comfortable temperature. I know a lot of us are either want to keep it, save some money on that thermostat bill, but they say if you're going to spend the money to cool your house, do it at night so you sleep, or warm your house, do it at night so you sleep. And then high volume noises right before bed also kind of works the same way as the light wakes you up, startles you, things like that. A lot more about the light. So, do you guys have a third shift here? No? Second shift? So a lot of the folks on second shift, third shift, again, that circadian rhythm, we mess that up when we don't work the normal, day shift schedule. They've actually studied it and say it takes people who work night shift for 10 years or longer, it actually takes 10 healthy years off their life because they never actually get that restorative sleep, and their circadian rhythm gets so messed up that your body just doesn't function the way it was intended to function. So if you are one of those people who have to work the second and third shifts, you definitely want to be you be more cognizant of making sure that you are following these good sleep hygiene habits about turning TVs off, making sure your room's dark when you're trying to sleep, and things like that. So signs of a sleep problem. So difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, daytime fatigue, strong urge to take naps, irritable or anxiety, lack of concentration, depression. These are kind of your main signs that you have a problem. If you're concerned about your sleep, we have something called an Epworth Sleepiness Scale, and I've got a couple copies of that up here if you're interested. You just answer a few questions and get a score. If you score 0 to 10, typically you probably don't have a problem, and then going up from mild, moderate to severe. If you're anything but normal, we definitely suggest you see a sleep doctor to see what's going on. Sometimes it could be just habits, but a lot of times there's some underlying causes. So medical conditions associated with it. I know when sleep first kind of became big in the 90s, and coincidentally, I think Chernobyl was 1989, or 1979, and then the Exxon Valdez was 1989. India was 1986. Coincidentally, in the 90s, we started seeing a lot of CPAPs because they started studying it. They started studying all these big disasters, started figuring out that a lot of people have these sleep disturbances. It's actually the number of people who have it is staggering once you start to look at it. So a lot of the breathing disorders that you can have are the sleep disorders you can have. So obstructive airway, or what we call OSA, that's the most common, and that means that you stop breathing when you sleep. So people who snore, never heard anybody do a snore and then they start snoring again, that's your obstructive sleep apnea. What's happening is your airway is collapsing, and it's just shutting out. Your body's still trying to breathe, but your throat just closes off. It's very common in people who are overweight, or especially men who have big necks. Sometimes they're not overweight, but it's just the anatomy. They have larger necks, and it causes them to obstruct off. No amount of sleep hygiene, no amount of any of that stuff is going to correct obstructive sleep apnea. You need to get CPAP, or lose weight. Those are pretty much your only two options. But some people, if you just have that big neck circumference, you can lose weight, but you're still going to have the issues with the obstruction. There's a few medical procedures that are kind of wish-wash where they work. They can remove your uvula, the little wall back of the throat. Very invasive. I think it's 50-50 whether that works. A little easier to express the option. Let's see. So some of the more, in addition to obstructive sleep apnea, there's something called central sleep apnea. And that is where there's actually something in your brain that's just defective. You're sleeping and it just forgets to breathe. It's kind of like when a baby dies of SIDS. You can still have that as an adult. Your brain will just, for whatever reason, tell your body that it doesn't trigger that sense to breathe while you're sleeping. People can actually die that way. This is a little more serious than obstructive sleep apnea. You cannot treat that with like valve pieces or surgery. The only way to treat that is with something called BiPAP, which is a little more supportive than your normal CPAP. But the hard thing about the central sleep apnea is it's easy to look around. Like I can look around and say, I would put money on this guy or maybe this person has sleep apnea just because there's a look. With central sleep apnea, there is no look. There's no, men are more likely to have obstructive sleep apnea, and with central sleep apnea, men and women are equal. There's really no way to tell other than a sleep study. And you don't usually snore, so your bed partner's not going to say anything either, because you're quietly breathing and then you just stop. People can go their entire lives and not know it, and then eventually it causes some giant stroke or grand mal syndrome because of your brain's constant deprivation of oxygen and that increased CO2 that builds up while you're not breathing. So that is the only symptoms you really have with that central sleep apnea are kind of what you answer on the Epworth Sleepiness Scale. It's, are you doing all the things right, but you're still tired? It's something to check out. And then the really lucky people can have obstructive and central sleep apnea that's combined, so they're getting obstructed when they're sleeping, and then they have the part in their brain that tells them not to sleep, which is the most dangerous. You really want to get that one treated. Restless leg syndrome. So I don't know if anybody's ever experienced that. It's just this creepy crawly feeling in your legs the whole time you're asleep, and they continue to move while you're sleeping, which prevents you from needing REM sleep. It's also very uncomfortable. Sometimes you have to actually get out of bed and walk around. It's kind of like that feeling when your leg is falling asleep and it's starting to wake back up again, that pins and needles. as soon as they lay down at night, for whatever reason, like they don't have it during the day, they don't have it when they sit, they don't have it when they lounge during the day, but as soon as they lay down and try to go to sleep, they get that tingling feeling, and it's just an awful thing. There's medication that can treat that one. Narcolepsy, so we all see the jokes, people just fall asleep when they're talking to them, but there really are people like that who fall asleep while driving, fall asleep while just sitting around doing nothing, or if they're just, an opportunity like this where you have to pay attention, they just fall asleep. It's bad wiring in your brain. There's medication you can take that can help that. REM sleep behavior disorder. So this is when you're in REM sleep, you're not supposed to be able to move. People who have this will get up, they'll drive their car, they'll cook in the kitchen, they'll do all sorts of stuff, but they're completely asleep. And some people can get violent, some people can yell and scream, and some people just get up and go cook a Thanksgiving dinner on a Tuesday night. So it can be very dangerous, especially in the older populations. I've heard several stories of elderly folks who have this, and you're more likely to get it as you get older, who have this and have fallen and been killed in accidents like this. There's medication you can take that will suppress you from getting out of bed and things like that, but it can be a very dangerous disorder because a lot of people don't know they're doing it.
Is this unique from just standard sleepwalking, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Very different than just standard. Well, standard sleepwalking is a version of this.
Okay. So that's a lesser version of this disorder.
Well, sleepwalking, I guess, is probably that's not technically like a medical diagnosis, but yeah, you're sleepwalking. People hear sleepwalking and think, oh, you're just kind of walking around. This is like, I know somebody who took a fan down in the bedroom. They just took the fan apart, like. So it kind of goes a little past like sleepwalking. Just some people do take cars apart, like take alarm clocks apart, or a lot of people go cook for some reason. Cook big elaborate meals and they wake up the next morning and they're figured everywhere. Not usually with the precision that you would as you're awake. So a lot of times there's a little extra stuff there. Insomnia, we probably all suffer from this at one point where you can't go to sleep. This can get dangerous when it's prolonged. If you have prolonged insomnia, you definitely need to see a physician about it because it creates a very dangerous situation when you're driving, taking your kids, family, working, when you haven't slept.
Doesn't insomnia also include waking up frequently and having trouble getting back to sleep?
Yes. So some people have it in the middle of the night. As we age, it gets worse in the early morning hours. So the younger you are, usually it's like going to sleep. But for a lot of the older population and the older you get, a lot of those folks, they'll fall asleep just fine, but they'll wake up at 2 o'clock and just can't go back to sleep after that.
What is that?
Well, I think the aging population, and Blake might be able to help us out more here, but I know it's something to do with the brain chemistry. As we age, your circadian rhythm gets off.
Well, there's a couple ways to look at it. As you age, you're less active, so you don't require as much, or your body assumes you don't require as much sleep, so it wakes up that too. And then there's also hormonal and chemical changes that occur. Usually for women it's postmenopausal. For men it's usually around 55. After that, it just alters in your brain chemistry, and something about the melatonin production can just wake up that too. A lot of times physicians will prescribe melatonin as the first step. You want to avoid things like Benadryl, over-the-counter sleep aids, just for the simple fact that the Benadryl causes you to be dehydrated and reduces the amount of fluids within your kidney, which will cause you to wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning. Some people who think that alcohol helps them go to sleep, they will consume 2 or 3 drinks before bed. They go to sleep really easy, and then they wake up at 1, 2 o'clock because they're dehydrated, they have to urinate, and then the alcohol alters the chemistry within the body and itself, production of melatonin. A lot of those are the reasons why you wake up in the middle of the night. So predominantly, as we age, it does occur more often. Stress, cardiac conditions are another reason why you wake up.
And one that I did leave off was night terrors. Has everybody heard of night terrors? So a lot common in kids. I've had a child that has a super disturbing. It's rare that it continues after age 12, but it can. And that is different than the REM sleep behavior disorder. Typically, REM sleep behavior disorder happens later in the night, whereas the night terrors usually happen an hour or 2 after you've gone to sleep. But some adults can happen, and a lot of times, like he was talking about, alcohol medication can actually cause night terrors in adults. So it's important to kind of be aware of the type of medication you're taking and the risks and the dangers of those. A lot of people will kind of, they scoff at the CPAP because I tend to go very fire and brimstone because I have kind of hard-headed family and I have a family full of people with sleep apnea who are mostly not compliant. So I'm just like, you'll die. You don't wear your CPAP will die. And maybe that's a little too fire and brimstone, but the linkage between heart disease, COPD, diabetes, and sleep apnea is unquestionable. I personally have never met a person who has type 2 diabetes and doesn't have sleep apnea. Now, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but I've seen a lot of patients over 15 years, I've seen a lot of sleep studies, never met a single person who had type 2 diabetes and did not have sleep apnea. So there's a lot of studies that are just starting to kind of link those things together, but from experience, I can tell you I've never seen the two of them don't go together. But like Blake was talking about chronic kidney disease, that not sleeping, dehydration, things like that, stroke. My dad has combined sleep apnea, central and obstructive sleep apnea. He's had it got diagnosed in like 6. Never worn his BiPAP once. Last week had a stroke. Found out he was having lots of strokes, little mini strokes. His carotid is completely occluded on one side. I've been telling him for 15, 20 years, I'm like, you have to wear this or you're going to have a stroke. You have to wear this, you're going to have a stroke. Finally got out of the hospital, he's doing pretty good. First thing his doctor said, have to manage your sleep apnea. First thing you have to do is manage sleep apnea. So after somebody had several strokes, the first thing the doctor said was, have to take care. He wasn't worried about sending him for a referral, sending him to a cardiologist to go for cardiac issues they found, getting the surgery to correct this. The first thing he had to do was to treat the sleep apnea. So it's the first referral we got to tell you kind of how important it was. Stroke, heart failure. And a lot of times the sleep apnea and weight issues go hand in hand. If you're tired, you're not going to exercise, right? And what are we going to do when we're tired? I like to eat snacks. Right? And the more tired you get, the less active you are, the more weight you gain. Then you get the type 2 diabetes, and it's this vicious cycle. So if we learn to manage our sleep in healthy ways and learn if we have any of these other medical problems and treat them, it's not enough just to get the diagnosis. We have a lot of people come into the lab, we get them the diagnosis, we say, no, this is why you're having these problems. But they're like, I'm not going to wear that. So, we have 2 private rooms if you're interested in getting a sleep study. And most labs have, people sometimes don't want to go on a sleep study because it sounds scary. It's not the most comfortable situation in the world. You got a camera, somebody's in there where you sleep, but this is their whole job, is to watch people sleep. It's a very unique kind of person who can do that, so you don't have to worry about anybody being judgmental. But we have sleep number beds. Most labs have really nice rooms. They look like hotel rooms. You got sleep number beds. You do have to wear a lot of stuff, but it's not like going to the hospitals. And people get scared of it. And we have new devices for home sleep testing that you can actually take this little box home, you put a couple of things on and bring it back the next day and you sleep with it. So a lot less invasive. Those don't work for everybody, but some patients can get diagnosed with home sleep testing without coming into the lab. So it's pretty interesting stuff. I always think that a lot of people will kind of have sleep trouble and go to their GP. And although you always want to listen to your physician, they spend in medical school just a tiny amount of time on sleep. So the first thing they'll say is, well, maybe try this, maybe try some Ambien, before they really refer straight to the sleep lab to have testing, which is, if your Epworth score is above that mild range, you should automatically go. But it's really important to be proactive and to really advocate for yourself and for your doctor's appointments, because some of the doctors are just ignorant. I know, like with my dad's situation, the doctor he went to the 2 days after suggested 3 things and put orders in for 3 things that he wasn't a candidate for. And had his kids not been sleep people, we would have gone off to those appointments and then just been frustrated. And so it's important to go see board certified sleep specialists who have those problems. And I always like to tell my Ambien story. So I have this Ambien story. So I worked in the NICU for a long time with little premature babies. So we had this baby in this very, a lot of the babies came with some really difficult family situations, but this one to me just always stuck out. So man and woman married, the marriage is not going well, so they decide to get divorced. So woman moves out, husband keeps the home, she's starting to have trouble sleeping, she never slept lunch, she goes to her GP. he automatically just gives her some Ambien. So she takes it, it helps her sleeping problem. She's up and sleeping good. Then about 6 to 8 weeks later, she finds out she's pregnant. She swears to the doctor, there's no way I can be pregnant. I haven't had any relationships with anybody. I've been separated from my husband. There's no way I can be pregnant. And he's like, well, you're pregnant. So she carries this baby, has a lot of stress. Goes to court to have the divorce with her, to finalize the divorce with her husband. She's 6 months pregnant at this point. So walks in the courtroom, and the ex-husband says, why didn't you tell me? She's like, what? That you're pregnant. She's like, well, it's not yours. And he's like, what do you mean it's not mine? And she's like, I don't know whose it is, but I haven't had a relationship with anybody. And he's like, you were coming to my house for like 3 or 4 weeks every night, knocking on the door, and you were engaging in relations. And she, flabbergasted, actually went into preterm labor, came in, had her baby premature. So now these people who finalized the divorce the day their baby was born, she didn't know she was doing it. She took the Ambien, would get in her car, drive to her old house, have sex with her ex-husband, and then drive home, never knowing it happened. So, people talk about wanting all these medications instead of wearing the mask, and I'm like, well, this really doesn't look as bad as possibly situations like that. So, medications are good when they're needed, but there are side effects to everything. So I always like to tell the Ambien story because, gosh, how awful it is. Do you guys have any questions about any sleep-related topics?
I do. Is there any correlation with sarcoids and sleep apnea?
I think I've read a few things about. I think just because of the pain syndrome and some of the medications that they take, there's a correlation, and that is the only thing that I researched. I don't know if Blake knows anything. I know there's a correlation between some of the medications that are used to manage that condition that can cause some sleep problems. But to be honest with you, I'd have to look into it. But if it's something that I'm really curious about, we can definitely talk to you. But I know there's a lot of pain stuff associated with it. There's a lot of medications that can cause secondary sleep problems.
How much sleep do you really need before you start to have these things?
So a healthy adult is supposed to sleep
Just
7.
depends on the person.
Oh, so there isn't like a floor,
Typically
say?
between 6 and 8 hours.
Okay.
Some people can function with 5 hours of sleep and be perfectly fine. Some people need 10 hours of sleep. Honestly, just depends on the person.
And I think back in the day, the American Medical Association said like 7, but
For teenagers, they want them to sleep. If we have any teenagers, they want at least 9 to 10 hours a night. Between the ages of 13 and 19. It's a huge problem, especially because the high schools are starting so early, and things like that. But for adults, it just depends on you as an individual. So if you can sleep for 6 hours and still function and you don't feel tired throughout the day, then 6 hours is good for you. Others, this one person requires 11 hours of sleep for them to even function as a human being. So it just depends. But the American Academy of Sleep recommends between 6 and 8.
again, that kind of brings up, it's pretty rare, but it's something called idiopathic hypersomnolence. So it just means you're tired all the time. And even after going to respiratory school, being in the field for a lot of years, I never heard of it. And I married a guy really young, and he was, our first night in our little studio apartment, he started snoring like freight train, and I was like, I can't. This isn't gonna work out unless you go get this taken care of, because this is too much. So he goes in as his 20-year-old self, and he comes back with a CPAP, and I can tell you that at 20, this is the most sexy thing that you can turn over to in the night. And like 15 years ago when he did this, they were not like they are now. They were very big, they were loud, and they made this kind of latest noise around your nose when they slept. It's not an attractive thing, but he stopped snoring. It was very healthy for him, so it was good, very supportive. And I told him I would divorce him if he didn't wear it, so he wore it. So I could think that I was a good catch for him then. But he continued to be tired, so he was always tired. And his mom kind of joked, oh, he's a Duckworth. The Duckworths are just they sleep and they snore, and it's not a medical problem. And he was still young at the time, and I was like, I think you should get it checked out, but moms have a lot of effect on their sons. And she's like, no, she just not have a Duckworth. I went to school for a long time for this, but eventually it got to the point where he fell asleep while driving through a red light. He's a police officer, so I think that's the other part to it. My husband's a police officer. So he has a gun in a car, and he fell asleep and just drove through a red light. And I'm like, you just drove through a red light. What? And I was like, you have to go see a doctor. So we went to 3 or 4 doctors, and I'm, again, in the field, but nobody could help. They're just like, well, we're in the CPAP, maybe lose a couple pounds, do this, do that. We tried all this, nothing worked. I started teaching, and one of our medical directors actually did a presentation on the idiopathic hypersomnia, and every slide she would do, I was like, oh my gosh, that's my husband. So I took her and found out that's what he has. No rhyme or reason to it. He could sleep for 14 hours, get up, and he's still tired. And they did all the tests, they did all the thyroid, the testosterone, all of it was fine. But he just, for whatever reason, cannot wake up in the morning.
So what would be the opposite of that? Like, it doesn't matter if I go to sleep at midnight or if I go to sleep at 8 p.m. I still only sleep until 4 o'clock in the morning, no matter what.
Are you rested though?
Oh, yeah, I'm exactly what I'm saying.
Then you're a mutant. You need to model that.
Been telling him that for years.
But I used to have to back, I weighed 378 pounds.
Really?
And I had, every day I couldn't wake up no matter what.
No matter what you do. But I mean, if you can do that, and a lot of times, yeah, if you don't need any more sleep, a lot of times, in normal people, you should wake up. If you have a healthy sleep pattern and you have healthy sleep habits, and you don't have any of these medical conditions, you should fall asleep with ease at the same time, and you should wake up without an alarm every day. If you can't do that, likely there's a problem. Likely there's a problem with either your sleeping routines, medical issue, medication you're taking, but that is an example of how it should work. I mean, ideally you go to bed at the same time and get up at the same time, but if you don't have any problems going to sleep and you don't have any problems getting up, but in an ideal world, even on the weekends, you should go to sleep at the same time and wake up rested at the same time without having to be woken up. So that's interesting, but yeah, so there's a lot of very rare obscure sleeping disorders, but there's not a lot of sleep specialists. So a lot of times they get missed, but I mean, they gave my husband his car and his gun and said, go patrol the streets at night, and he's falling asleep and doing really. Oh, I mean, I hate to admit this, he doesn't ever call me more because he's on medication, but I mean, he would leave his gun places. Like restrooms, I mean, he'd just forget the gun places. Like he was so tired, and we kept going to the doctor and we'd say, I'm like, I'm really concerned. He likes to drive that police car really fast and forgot the gun a couple places. I mean, he'd have to come back in the morning because, I mean, every day he would forget the mic, he'd forget something, and I'm like, but once he got on the medication, though, it improved pretty significantly. It's in the morning getting him to put it in his mouth before he does anything, and then he'll wake up. But it's amazing how much, once you either fix the behavioral problems or fix the medical problems, how drastically your life improves. I mean, he would be the poster boy to come in and just say how much better he feels, and you know, he won't even take a nap without putting the CPAP on. So it goes to show you just how important that kind of thing is. Any other people that have some awesome sleep abilities?
Besides the mutant.
Yeah. And I mean that in a cool X-Men sort of way, not like a weird.
Yeah.
She's next.
Yeah, you're talking about the sleep debt, that there's a point where you can't make it up.
Yep.
So is there a threshold where you can't make it up?
So I don't know the actual threshold where you can or can't. I think it's a true, but a scare tactic used to say don't get there. Improving your sleep hygiene and making sure you're following a lot of things with the circadian rhythm, making sure you're having your sleep checked, make sure you don't have a disorder that's causing bad sleep. A lot of people can improve their situation, but once you kind of create those bad habits, for most of the people who they study, they continue through the rest of their lives. So I think it's something hard to quantify with a number, but they have studied that once you hit a certain threshold, that you can't ever fix it again.
So like if you have really like stay up till 5 a.m., but other than that, you have a really good sleeping habit, like is it okay to try to make up that sleep that you missed, or should you just?
Oh, yeah, so you stay up till 5 a.m. and then.
But it's only like an occasional once a month type thing.
Oh, yeah, I think
I
that's.
didn't know if you should just.
Can you just skip that or?
Sleep till noon. Well, I'd say probably not a great idea, but yeah, sleep till. Obviously, if you stay up till 5 in the morning, you're better off just sleeping until noon than you are just, well, I normally get up at 7, so I'm just gonna get up at 7. Because then if you're driving your car, you're going to work, you're putting all the other people at risk too because you're sleeping driving. So definitely, if you stay up till 5, don't do it with small kids because they won't let you sleep at all. But yeah, you should definitely try.
What do those people do if they don't have their machine with them when they're out somewhere and they don't have it? Can they sleep without it once they're used to it?
You're not supposed to. So a lot of the patients who are flying can't sleep without it. I mean, they're more cognizant of like the gasping and the air hunger, especially when they lay down flat. We've traveled all over the place. My husband takes his machine and just takes it on the airplane with them, and they're getting smaller and a lot easier to travel with. You know, back I know in the beginning, like these huge, big old loud machines, but if you have sleep apnea and you have a sleep apnea or a BiPAP, you're supposed to take it with you. If you're going to sleep somewhere, you're supposed to take it with you.
Would sleeping face down make any difference as far as that goes?
Yes, so your sleep position can drastically affect like things like obstructive sleep apnea. If you're lying flat on your back, a lot of people are more likely to obstruct them than laying on their side. So when you have a sleep study, they actually know, are you laying your back or front? Even the home test will tell us where you lay, you know, what direction, where you lay. So definitely, it's recommended, again, sleeping face down. As it makes you likely to smother yourself. But I know some people, there's special pillows you can get that kind of position. You can still sleep on your stomach, but it positions your head to keep your airway open. So I know those are good options, but you definitely don't want to sleep with your face down. Does that make sense?
I always do. But I use my arms, so it's
Right.
kind of like
And it
I'll make
depends on
myself
the,
a way to breathe.
but positionally, a lot of times, you can, you know, if you sleep the whole night in one on your side, you might not have any apneic events, but if you sleep in a contorted position, you might have several. So it's something to consider, but when you do a sleep study, it does know the position that you're in, and there are special pillows for who like to sleep that way that do keep their airway open.
So you say you're better off to sleep on your stomach?
No, back. Our side, well, side is usually where you
Oh,
have
you'd
the least,
rather sleep on your side?
on your least step. I mean, you gotta sleep what's comfortable for you, so
But
don't,
I know, but, so you'd rather just sleep on your side?
you have less apneas on your side. That's,
You should sleep however you sleep to get the best sleep. Does that make sense? Because everybody's going to be different. He sleeps on his stomach, I sleep on my side. I can't sleep on my stomach, I won't get any sleep. So if somebody told me to sleep on my stomach, I'd be like, you're crazy. I'm not going to do that. So really, however you've been sleeping for X amount of years, I think that's probably okay. If you notice that you're waking up more during the night or have starting to develop difficulties, then that would be the time that you would want to look at like if something changed or you're doing something different than you normally would. And then you haven't changed anything and you're still tired or waking up, then maybe it's medication that you're on or your habits that you're doing. And if none of those things are preventing you, then maybe it's time to talk to your physician. But I would look at your sleep habits first, making sure that you're going to bed at the same time, not sleeping with the TV on, having your room. Really, you just want the bedroom to be for sex and sleep. You don't want a TV in there. You don't want a radio in your room. So if you have those things, you shut them off at least for 3 hours before you're going to sleep. You want the room to be between 68 and 71 degrees. You want it to be dark. The blackout blinds work best. Other than that, if you do all those things, if you're going to bed at the same time and waking up and you're still tired, then I would start to look at why that is. But most of the time, for 7 out of 10 people, it's going to be their sleep habits.
you know, back in, again, I worked with a very tenured physician who was in his 80s and still practicing. And kind of before the CPAPs and things took hold, kind of with the positional thing, he would tell his patients who snore to take their wife's bra, put it on backwards, and then put 2 baseballs in the back to keep them from sleeping like that. But it typically kind of screwed up their sleep weight. You know, they weren't comfortable, they weren't getting good restorative sleep. They may not be snoring anymore, but it was still, you know, so they kind of got away from the positional, but there are positions that are more likely, but you don't know what those are because they're all kind of independent to you, and you wouldn't know until you have a sleep study. So I would go home and just try to sleep this way because it's less likely.
I have a question. What is there any truth to trying to time your sleep based on circadian rhythm and cycles and looking at 90-minute intervals of sleep? Is there benefit to trying to target that? To not wake up in the middle of a cycle or things of that sort?
I never really.
How do you do that?
Well, it's said that a typical sleep cycle is roughly 90 minutes, correct? Is that
Yeah.
accurate? So if you
Depending on the
were to target 6 hours or 7.5 hours or 9 hours, that would give you roughly 4 or 5 or 6 cycles.
Yeah.
I've read some research that indicates that we might wake up more restored and refreshed if you wake up at the end of a cycle instead of in the middle of it.
I
And then
guess you
that-
would have to know where you're at though in the cycle.
Yes.
So without having an EEG on while you're sleeping, you wouldn't know where you're at. I mean, they sell devices like Garmin, I think that's Apple.
Well, we all have Garmin devices that track our sleep cycles.
They don't actually track your sleep cycle. The only way to track your sleep cycle is be able to track your brain wave.
Yeah, they don't track the beta and the
Track
theta
your heart
and
rate,
alpha
based on
waves.
that movement. So it's not, it won't tell you if you were in REM or stage 4 or 3. Most people will spend the majority of their time in 3 and 4, which is deep sleep, which is where your delta waves are. And that's actually where like cellular regeneration occurs, so your heart, it repairs your heart, it repairs your bones, muscles, things like that. REM sleep is more for cognition and memory, things like that. But the majority of people, 6 to 10 times a night, they will go into REM sleep, but some people only go into REM sleep twice a night. So really, if you try to time it, you would have to do probably a week's worth of data on yourself with an EEG to kind of figure out how exactly you would do that.
So it sounds like there's not much merit to attempting to do so.
Now, your body will naturally wake up usually in stage 1 or 2. If you wake up in stage 3 or 4, I don't know if you've ever woke up and then you just feel so groggy no matter what you do, take a cold shower, drink coffee, still takes a long time to wake up. That's usually because you woke up at stage 3 or 4. And it would be real difficult to wake up in that stage unless there's like a fire in your house or something woke you up in that stage.
Like an alarm clock?
Brain kind of shuts down in 3 and 4 to the point where it would take like 100 greater decibels for you to wake up with noise. So usually people wake up at 1 and 2. In REM sleep, it's almost impossible to wake up. Your body secretes a hormone that actually paralyzes the body unless you have REM sleep behavior disorder. So you probably wouldn't wake up in REM sleep unless you had sleep paralysis or REM sleep disorder. So usually most people wake up at 1 and 2. So you could theoretically try to time it. But usually you keep like a sleep journal. You'll eventually figure out how much sleep you need and what time works best for you to go to sleep and wake up. The ideal thing is to track your sleep for a whole month with a sleep journal about what time you woke up, how many times that night you woke up, what you ate before you went to bed, what you drank before you went to bed, and what medications you take. And then you can kind of navigate your sleep that way.
Kind of in with that, the snooze, shouldn't use a snooze. Like my husband was notorious for setting his alarm for 7 alarms, 2 hours before you get up. So for 2 hours, again, this moves towards divorce with this one. Snooze it for 2 hours to try to wake up. That's going to disrupt your sleep cycles. Or the folks who set their alarms for, that could be 30 minutes that you could be sleeping. Set your alarm for when you need to get up and then get up. Don't do because you're just kind of getting yourself just back. But it's not any restorative sleep. You're not getting any benefit to snoozing your alarm and laying in bed.
Why is it that you always feel like you get the best sleep though in the morning? I always feel like I'm sleeping the most sound when it's time to get up.
And your bed's the most comfortable, and I think that's human nature. We don't want to, when we can't get into bed, it's not all that comfortable, but in the morning when you have to get up and go to work or go to something you don't because I want to. It's, oh, my bed is so comfortable and I feel like I'm sleeping great. Yes.
I'm just wondering, along with what he was talking about, waking up at certain times in your sleep cycle, is there any value in those apps? Because I've tried a couple of them where they're supposed to sense, put it on your bed next to you, and then it senses where you're at in sleep cycle and wakes you up when you're more likely to be alert and ready to go.
So that technology, I think, is getting there, but it's not FDA approved, and they can't. And I know they say, well, RAM, but again, like he said, it's the only way to tell is to have an EEG. That's where you have all those little things stuck to your head, like for people who have seizures, they do them. We do it in a sleep lab. There's no way for a device to tell. Now it can like read the things like heart rate and say, oh, this heart rate is consistent with REM. But and they're neat gadgets, and they have a role. Like the Garmin's have a role. I know my phone has an app that I think it just tracks how much I'm on my phone, but it's really accurate, and it just tells me how long I slept. But it's not on my bed. It's sitting on my. I haven't looked on how it works. But in the morning, it tells you how long you slept, and you get it okay. It's very accurate. And it has been helpful to look back at and see, oh, well, I felt horrible last week, but look, I slept for 4 hours, 5 hours, and then this week I felt pretty good, and I got 7. I think it's good for that, but I think the sleep cycling thing, I mean, your body knows how to do that. We don't need a device to tell us how to do that. It knows. A device that kind of helps us track, did I make bad sleep choices? Did I stay up and watch the Chiefs game last night, opposed to go to bed? You know?
Not a bad choice.
Well,
I don't regret it.
It wasn't last time.
No.
What do you suggest to when you wake up at night? What's the best thing?
like wake up in the middle of the night?
Yeah, to wake up in the middle of the night.
Do you just wake up to like use the restroom, or just wake up?
Just wake up. Or sometimes go to the bathroom too.
A lot of times people wake up to go to the restroom multiple times a night, and that's usually a symptom of another medical problem. So if you wake up a lot and have to go to the restroom, that's typically unusual, and that's something you want to talk to your doctor about. If you just wake up a lot, there's a few different sleep disorders that can contribute to that, but it would kind of depend. There'd be a lot of variables, I guess, to those symptoms and things like that. But if you wake up several times a night, it would definitely be something you want to talk to a physician about, because there's a whole slew of things that can make that happen.
If it was stress causing that, and you reduce the stress, does your body get accustomed to doing that? Or if you remove the stress, does it help go back to
When
normal
you
sleep?
remove the stress, it will help. Now, it's not like instantaneous, because your body gets used to a sleep cycle, a sleep rhythm, and if you're having trouble sleeping because of stress, you're going to kind of get used to that, and it's going to take a while to go back. But definitely, if you remove that stress or treat the stress, a lot of those sleep cycles will eventually improve if there's not an underlying condition.